Hi Taurus, happy early birthday to those of you who celebrate in April, and welcome to your April 2020 Astrology 33 reading. Thank you to those of you who've liked, viewed, shared, subscribed, and donated to the channel. I appreciate all of that. For those of you interested in booking a personal reading with me, just check out the description of the video for more details on that. As far as what we have in front of us, we have a Celtic Cross spread as always, and then we have a couple of Oracle cards and a Mudra card that we'll get through once we get to the main spread. And just to let you guys know, the vibe that I'm getting from this reading is that it's probably going to be focused on a fairly small group of you guys. So if a bit early on through the reading it seems like it doesn't fit your story, then feel free to check out the readings for your other placements, alright? Because I don't always get that type of vibe, but when I do like to point out to people that, this might seem like almost like a personal reading for a small group of you. Others of you might feel like it doesn't resonate at all. So just wanted to put that out there. Alright. Starting with the main situation position, we have the Page of Cups. Usually this energy represents making an offer to someone, communication, usually emotional communication. So most often we do see that as being some type of a love offer being made. Now, what always sticks out to me is the fish in the cup, right? So to me, page energies I often view as the one foot in, one foot out energy. And interestingly enough, we do also have the knight, which is the next step up from the page, the queen and the king. But if you think about the page, they haven't reached that level yet, right? So there isn't as much comfort and familiarity with navigating through that type of energy. So this could just represent you, for example, trying to make an offer to someone, but maybe it's not something you're accustomed to doing. Which can be the case for you guys too, given that you're ruled by Venus, right? Which is usually more about receptivity than actually going out and pursuing something or someone. So that could be where you might feel quite literally like a fish out of water, right? Since we see that symbolism with the card. And this could just say that, maybe you're nervous about making the offer to someone, and maybe it might even come across that way when you do make the offer. But with the Page of Cups, especially when it is in the upright, I will say there is definitely some sincerity there. So it could just be as simple as you might stumble over your words a little bit, for example. But that's what I'm feeling here. In the Challenger Obstacle position, we have the Judgment in reverse. So, alright, I'll put it in the upright while we talk about it. I actually view this as Scorpio energy, where, the Death card represents Scorpio energy. I view this as the rebirthed side of the Scorpio energy. So if this coming up in the challenge in the reverse position, what I'm feeling there is to say that I feel like a lot of what's happening here is you've been waiting and hoping for some type of intervention regarding the situation, for maybe them to come to you first, for example, or for some type of a clear sign, right? Like maybe you've just been debating it in your head. Should I reach out to this person? Should I not reach out to this person, right? So maybe you've just been waiting for some external guidance to show you a clear sign that, yes, I should definitely move forward with this, right? Again, especially if you're nervous about it. But what I feel this is saying is with this coming up in reverse, you haven't been getting that, and I feel like it's very much by design. Especially that this is a major arcana card, meaning that you're not meant to get some type of external sign in this situation. Or, there's not supposed to be some external forces that do the work for you, essentially. I feel like this is very much something that you guys are actually meant to take action on. Alright. In the foundation position, we have the Knight of Swords. So this is actually the court card for Gemini, and it represents obviously the sign of communication. And what I always say is this usually comes up for me during the Mercury retrograde. So technically Mercury retrograde is done now. We're still technically in the shadow period at the time I'm recording this. I'm recording this right in the middle of the month. But what this could just be saying is maybe that was the issue. Maybe you might have actually had an argument with someone during the Mercury retrograde period, and now, cooler heads are prevailing, right, with the energy now shifting, Mercury moving forward, and maybe now you're looking at things from a different perspective and maybe realizing, oh, okay, maybe that wasn't, the best way to go about things, right? Or this could just even be saying that maybe even during the retrograde, you might have had another look at the situation from the past, and maybe now you're viewing it through different eyes. So I do feel that while for some of you this can be someone that you really haven't had a falling out with, but it's just a matter of finding the words to say to them, right? For others of you, I feel like there definitely could have been some kind of a falling out, and maybe it was either, again, maybe it happened during the retrograde, or during the retrograde you've been able to look at things from a different perspective, and maybe now actually, due to that, feel inclined to actually try to rectify the situation, but you're still a bit nervous around it. The reason I say that could be the case is in the past position, we have the Ten of Swords. So, there are some other ways you could spin this card in some situations, but here, this seems to, especially given that the Knight is heading right in that direction, to me this definitely looks like this was a pretty firm ending that you guys went through in the past. Now, for some of you, this can just be pointing to maybe this is just the mental anguish that you've been putting yourself through, right? I mean, especially having Mercury retrograde taking place in the sign of Pisces, there could definitely be a lot of confusion there. So, I mean, it could be as simple as that for some of you, just saying that maybe that's why you're in the Page of Cups energy. Maybe you've moved out of that mental anxiety. This represents an ending to that, and now you're getting closer to being able to move forward. But I feel like for a larger majority of you, this is actually saying that there was an actual ending that took place between you and another person, possibly through some harsh words being said, or at the very least some miscommunication where there was no attempt to clear it up at the time. In the present position, we have the Knight of Cups. So I will say that in a positive sense, given that you guys were in that Page of Cups energy in the main situation, to now see the Knight, to me, shows two things. It shows both movement, right, as far as the Knights actually represent movement, and then also forward progress. Quite literally, if we look at the positioning and the spreads too, because we have the Knight moving towards the Knight of Swords, that is, moving towards the past, right? The Page of Cups is looking towards the past, and now we actually see the Knight moving forward toward the future. So, to me, I'd view that all as pretty good signs overall as to what the situation is heading towards. But again, this could represent you feeling a bit more confident about moving forward and making this offer to someone. And I do feel like for a lot of you, this can be romantic relationships, but quite frankly, it could also represent family or possibly even in a career setting too. Do have to mention those possibilities. But yep, so that's what I'm seeing there. And this could, given that for me this is a court card of Pisces, this could either represent the fact that we'll have Mercury continuing to move through there for a pretty decent chunk of April. I'm trying to think, I think it gets into Aries around mid-month, so could just be representing that. Or quite frankly, given that your 12th house is Aries, this could even be pointing to when we have Mercury moving into the sign of Aries. But yeah. Given that this is coming up in the present position for more of you, I feel like this is just pointing to as Mercury moves forward through Pisces, you're going to be in this energy. In the near future position, we have the Queen of Cups, the Devil, the Five of Wands, and the Wheel of Fortune. Interesting mix of energies here. I do have to say, for one, this is Cancer energy, which for you guys is actually a third house of communication. This is Capricorn energy, which is your 9th house. This represents Leo energy, which is your 4th house. And then Wheel of Fortune pretty much just represents Jupiter energy, so that's the ruler of Sagittarius, but currently it's in Capricorn, so more of that 9th house energy. So here's what I'm really seeing with this. We see the Page of Cups, right, that has the fish coming out of the cup. Then we see the Knight with a little bit more confidence. Now we see the Queen, which shows yet more emotional growth. But interestingly enough, I see what sticks out to me is the fact that this cup is closed off, right? So again, closed off communication and or emotions. So I feel like the feelings are growing, but now you're shying away from communicating them for whatever reason. So I don't know what's making that shift take place. It could be the fact that you're going to have that energy going through Aries for a good chunk of the month. So maybe, when things go through your 12th house, you do tend to get a bit stuck in your head and not, maybe lose that willingness to take action. So that could be what's at play there. But what sticks out to me the most with this is, again, pointing to the fact that this represents your third house communication. And then we see the devil, right? Tons of energy going on in the sign of Capricorn. It's been covered by me and probably everyone else you have watched. As far as, we have Jupiter there, Pluto. Saturn is actually finally moving out of there into Aquarius, but we still have the South Node there too. So to me, this could just say the main way that I'm seeing this is that this is a situation that's karmic in nature, and that you're going to have to address it one way or another in order to get that forward movement. And the reason I say that is because we have, I'll go back to this card in a second, but we have that Wheel of Fortune. So that's really what those two cards in particular communicate to me, the Devil and then the Wheel of Fortune being the final card, which is to say that, you're going to have to address this in order to get that forward movement. And I do have to say, with the Five of Wands showing up here, to be fair, I can say that when you do address it, it might actually be a bit bumpy, because this is a slightly combative energy. It's not as cutthroat as the Five of Swords would be. This could be more of one of those, maybe arguing a bit to make a point, but not to the point where you get too cutting with it, like the Five of Swords would be. So that's, I guess, the lesser of two evils in that regard. But to me, this does say, and maybe that's why you've been fearing this all along. Maybe you've known that this might lead to some kind of conflict. But it does seem like ultimately it's going to be necessary in order to get that forward movement with the Wheel of Fortune. So I would say, especially for those of you who have felt stuck, right? Like in this repetitive cycle, like you can't move forward in some way, shape, or form. I would say that message is definitely coming through loud and clear for you guys, which is to say, the more you try to hold on to this, it's not going to lessen that bond. You're going to have to eventually address it. So that's what I'm seeing there. And the position of your energy toward the situation, we have the Queen of Swords in the reverse. So this is actually Libran energy. And with this coming up in the reverse, it can say that you guys might be inclined to be unfair in the situation. But really what I could see this saying as well, as opposed to, whereas being unfair would almost represent a deliberate effort on your part to be that way. With this coming up in reverse too, though, this could just be saying that you feel uncertain of how to establish that balance, right? Like how to restore that balance. And that could be what the issue is for some of you. You might, with that Ten of Swords in the past and the Queen and the Knight of Swords, rather, in the foundation, it could have been, a pretty harsh argument that you guys might have had with this person, and it could have been a pretty bad falling out. So maybe that's why you're nervous to address it. Like, okay, I don't know how to fix this, right? But I feel like regardless if that's the case, what seems to be the overall theme here is that through this you are actually growing. I do have to point out at the bottom of the deck as well, we have the King of Cups. So, it's like that steady progression of growth as far as emotional growth goes, but I feel like the issue is communicating it for some reason. And I do have to say, we're almost at the very end of the North Node transit of through Cancer, which is your house of communication. So, if you have felt challenged and like you've been meant to grow in some way, shape, or form in that area of life, that is very much on par with what we see astrologically. So this could have just been maybe some kind of a blockage that you guys have had for a long time in your lives. And, I feel like you're really just being pushed to move forward with that now. The nodes are actually squaring Chiron right now, which is known as the Wounded Healer. So, and that's in your 12th house too. So this is definitely going to be something that's kind of important for your personal growth, I will say. But again, I feel like you're being nudged to take action in the situation. All right, in the environment position, we have the Four of Cups. So this is actually more Cancer energy too, but I really do feel like this represents the other person. And the main way that I see this energy, the Four of Cups energy to me is always a frustrating energy, whether it comes up for the main person in the reading or someone else. Because this is that type of energy where we look at the person, they have those cups being offered to them, right? It looks like they're clearly not happy with what's being offered, but yet they're making no effort to go after what they do want, right? or communicate what they do want. So they're just going to keep getting more of the same thing they don't want, right? So that's the frustrating part. It's like, okay, well, you're not happy with it. Either speak up or, go out and get what you do want. So that's the frustrating energy here. So I do have to say, if this is the type of person you're dealing with, I can see why you might feel like you don't know how to restore balance with this person. But if that's the energy that you get from this person, like I said, I feel like this communicating, regardless of if this turns out well or not, I feel like this is really just more important for your soul growth more than anything. So what I would say is, if you do reach out to this person and maybe they don't, give you positive feedback or maybe even any feedback at all, I would say just try to hold yourself back from repeatedly, reaching out to them over and over again. You know what I mean? Like, let's say you already sent 3 messages and they haven't responded, right? Since this is the modern age, right? A lot of people do things through text messaging, whatever, DMs, whatever you want to call it. So let's say you send them 3 messages and you haven't heard back, right? I would say try to hold back from sending more. Just, okay, maybe one, all right, I'm not sure if they got it, right? Depending on the method you use, too, you could get read receipts to know, okay, they actually did read it. If that's the case, just give it some time. I think pushing it isn't really going to change things one way or the other. So it could be as simple as this person might still be in their feelings about whatever the situation was with you guys. So yeah, by all means, I feel like you are definitely, with all the cups energy here, being nudged to speak up about your feelings around the situation. But I would say once you do, try to give it some time, try to leave it alone, don't push it. All right. In the hopes or fears position, we have the Six of Swords. So I could actually see this playing out 2 ways too, where this could be saying that some of you are hoping to move forward to calmer waters, right? Where, again, this is about you wanting to restore peace in a connection. And for others of you, this could even be saying that you're fearing, that this person might move on from the situation. So, but what I do always point out when I see this card, or any card rather in this position, is that it doesn't necessarily point to this energy actually playing out. It's just more of an energy that's heavy on your mind. So something to keep in mind there. All right, and in the outcome position, we have the Five of Cups, which is actually Scorpio energy, and the Eight of Cups, which is Pisces energy. So, Five of Cups, I mean, you could see from the artwork, it looks like it definitely points to disappointment, right? And what I do have to point out is this is the card that comes after the Four of Cups, naturally, right? So there's that progression there, which is to say, to me, I feel like this could just represent a lot of time passing possibly after you reach out to this person. So you might not hear back from them right away. Now, I do have to say that if we think about the artwork here, a few things stand out to me. For one, we see the 3 cups knocked over, right? But there are the 2 that are also standing, but they're not, they're kind of oblivious to it. They're so focused on those 3 that are knocked over that you couldn't even, who knows if they even know those 2 cups are there, right? But they're still standing. And then also the gray background, right? So as opposed to here, we see a very clear black background, right? Here we see sunny skies, right? But here we see that gray neutrality. And to me, that represents the choice, right? Which is to say you can focus on those 3 spilled cups and stay in that energy for as long as you want, or you could try to, move forward, right? If we think about the position and the spread, this is looking at the past, that's moving forward, right? So if you move forward, that would be a better decision. But again, like I said, there's that choice, right? You could stay in this energy for as long as you want. And then the Eight of Cups energy represents usually moving forward, looking for something more fulfilling. To me, I view this as very similar as the Four of Cups energy, actually, like I was saying, where this energy is the person who isn't happy with what they're being offered, but at the same time, they're not going after what they do want. To me, this is when that person actually makes that move, right, to go after what they do want. So, seeing these 2 cards together, I have to say, for a decent portion of you, it might just be for this month, but I feel like for a decent portion of you, you might not hear back from this person. And that could be where the disappointment comes from. And then some of you might choose to move on because of that. Now, I do have to say, if that's the case, I really do feel like I'm really feeling that theme, that this was something you guys had to do anyway. It was a necessary step you had to make in order to get that Wheel of Fortune situation, right? Which represents that forward movement in a positive manner. For others of you, this can represent, you guys maybe even talking out that disappointment, right? Because we did see the Five of Wands energy too. So maybe you guys do rehash the past and maybe it does get a little ugly for a little bit, right? But then you guys are actually able to put that behind you, right? Move forward, maybe together as a unit, right? Which is to say, okay, yeah, whatever, we got everything out of the air now, we aired out grievances, now we can move forward. So, can play out both ways. Again, to be honest with you, I feel like for a majority of you, though, you might not hear back from this person. And if that's the case, I don't know if that's a permanent thing. I would say, well, especially if this is love related too, keep in mind I will be doing those readings around a week from now, so you could check those as well. Maybe they'll give you a continuation of this story. Sometimes they're totally separate, but you never know. But aside from that, it could just be like a temporary thing where they're just in that energy where they're not ready to forgive and forget just yet. But I would say if that's the case, try to refrain from getting in your feelings and then repeating a cycle again where you guys just go right back into a conflict type of scenario. You know what I mean? All right, let's see what the oracle cards have to say. First, we have milk and honey. There's the artwork, and the number is 51. Pretty positive looking card, so maybe things will work out for some of you, but we'll see what it says. It says, the taste of prosperity, opportunities born of authenticity, nurturing abundance, trusting that your needs will be met. The oracle's message, you've entered a sweet time in your life, enjoying the land of milk and honey that everyone wants to experience. It's an interlude that feels more languid than ambitious when all your senses are awakened to the unlimited possibilities in the universe. These times are precious and only come when you're in your authentic zone, wearing the world as a loose garment, not wanting, yet able to be nourished in ways both tangible and subtle. Abundance is an energy that you are a living part of. All your needs are being met. You are given the gift of nourishment in every form. So, definitely an interesting message there, and I have to say, I feel like there's certainly that potential there. With all of this cup energy, and like I said, it seems like there is emotional growth on your part. So overall, you would definitely feel like that would lead to something positive. So what I do have to say is what this could even point to for some of you, I have to point out that this could even just be saying possibly a missed opportunity because you might wait too long, because that's what I'm feeling here. I'm feeling like there's a lot of time passing and you, for whatever reason, hadn't felt comfortable to speak up what you needed to say, So maybe that's how it's playing out for some of you, which is to say this potential is there, but it's going to require, again, I feel like the theme that repeats is it's going to require action on your part. And like I said, for some of you, to be fair, this could just be as simple as a soul lesson, which is to say, even if it's not with this person, in order to get that Wheel of Fortune in the upright energy, you're going to have to confront this issue. Maybe it's like one of those things. You learn that lesson once, you're done with it, you can move forward, So something to keep in mind there. The relationship message says sensuality, connection, and passionate romance between lovers, sweet moments of understanding and love among friends and family are all here for you to savor now. Your heart's calling will be answered. Let your thoughts and feelings be sweet with gratitude, and you will be nourished with the honey of abundance. So again, like I said, we don't see that theme there. I do see that there's a blockage here. I see all that potential for these types of things that this card is referring to take place, but I still see a blockage. So, maybe it's as simple as trying to get yourself turned around in that regard with that Queen of Swords being in a reverse and trying to communicate, in a fair, balanced way and trying to have, once you do actually take the action, then would be the time for patience, I feel, where, like I said, as opposed to, just waiting and not speaking up, but then having that patience to wait for them to possibly come back to you might be the better play there. The prosperity message says there is only one authentic you. This version of yourself is Spirit's emissary in the world. When you're in alignment with the truth that you are a unique expression of the divine, your ego can rest and your soul can illuminate your purpose. Now is the time when you're seeking your true north. When you find this direction, you automatically step into prosperity and the world brings you evidence of abundance. Miracles are a choice and a way of seeing the world. With every choice you make right now, you have the potential to seize good fortune and embrace your destiny. Opportunities will lead you to your best life now. Be open to them. You're getting a sweet taste of what you want. So, pretty positive message there. I mean, to be quite frank, I didn't see a huge theme of like career type, finance type things, but hopefully that resonated for those of you looking for that. And I do have to say, like I said, since this is such a positive card and I see so many positive cup energies here, but then that seems like there's a blockage. If we look at these two cards, I will read the protection message from this card as well to see if maybe you guys could get some additional insight from that. All right, normally I don't do that, but I feel compelled to do it here. It says, a nameless unease compels you to turn to pleasure and comfort as a means to escape what's really going on. It works in the moment, but only fleetingly before the feelings return and you need to re-up until you're exhausted. Feeling worse than before, you may continue struggling, or you may see the light and choose to surrender to spirit. Now is the time for practicing extreme self-care. If you can, do so before you engage in behavior that you'll regret later. You are so loved, so cared for. Feel love and compassion for yourself. Turn your troubles over to the divine for healing. That's all that counts right now. Wow, actually, I'm kind of glad I did read that message because that does give me a whole other perspective of what could be going on here, too, which is to say that some of you actually could be dealing with some type of an addiction issue. And that could be what I'm seeing here with all these energies. I don't know why that didn't come to me before. But looking at it from that perspective, right? That could be what this growth is about, where maybe the addiction for some of you has grown, right? But now you're trying to get it under wraps. And that could be what that Queen of Cups is pointing to there, saying that, you're trying to get control of it. And, with that devil, right, of course, it could be easier said than done, right? And you could be, you could go through a battle to do so. But it looks like you can have some success with that. I do have to say. So for those of you who are dealing with that situation, definitely keep on trying with that. Maybe that's what that Queen of Swords in reverse is about too, where you guys are struggling. And then maybe this in the environment is saying, fighting that temptation, right? To, actually adjusting to turning it down, whatever the addiction may be. Of course, like a generic example, it could be drinking, but it could be anything, right? And maybe even that's what this is about, which is to say, as you try to let that go, there can, you can feel disappointed, right? Because it became such a comfort zone for you guys that now you're like, okay, I'm trying to leave this behind. But if that's the case, this is actually a very positive card to see here, that Eight of Cups, which is to say you have a pretty good shot of kicking that habit this month. So, sorry it's a little late in the game. Hopefully no one who needed to hear that didn't tune out early on, but definitely see some significance for that scenario too. So, hopefully that resonated with anyone who needed to hear that. All right, next we have Swan Spirit. It says time for a deep dive. There's the artwork and the number is 60. So we'll see what this has to say. Okay, it says with their graceful long necks, swans are able to reach into the depths. When Swan Spirit arrives, you are called to take a deep dive beyond what is easily available on the surface. You may think you know what is best for you now, but take the plunge into the depths of your awareness, for there is knowledge you are not aware of and great treasures to discover. Deeper understanding awaits you, and a perspective that comes from greater self-knowledge is what you need right now to better understand a situation or relationship. As you come to know yourself more intimately, so too will you come to better know others. So Swan Spirit asks you to go beyond the surface of what is happening between you and others and resist the temptation to judge by superficial appearances. Know there is much deeper potential for loving connections, forgiveness, and mutual understanding. Choose to dive deep into your why. Asking the deeper questions of yourself, you are led by the grace of Swan spirit. So, pretty cool message there. I would say that definitely, at least to me, I feel like that resonates a little better with the main spread that we've seen here, and offers some pretty good guidance for navigating through those energies. But hopefully that resonated with you guys. And finally, we have a mudra card for you guys. So the mudra you guys got for this month is the Mushti mudra. There it is. There, the keyword for the centering, and take a look at what it says. Okay, so if you guys wanted to take a screenshot or pause it to read what it has to say, you can, but it says reduces anxiety and nervousness, strengthens digestion and assimilation, eliminates nightmares, calms the mind, imparts a sense of centeredness within the body, reduces fatigue, and increases overall vitality. So, if that sounds like something you think would be beneficial for you guys, I will put the name of that mudra in the description of the video. And once again, happy birthday to those of you who celebrate in April, and I'll talk to you all next month. All right, bye.